Internet. I'm Keats, and I'm here with Microsoft Flight Simulator. And I'm going to do today my familiarization flight, which is me just hopping into the sim, checking out how things work, and not really worrying about proper procedures or using checklists or anything serious of that nature. In fact, I'm actually just using an Xbox One controller today. I really just want to see how it handles with that on a casual level. So for the familiarization flight, I've come to an area that I'm very familiar with, and the reason I'm so familiar with it is because this is where I learned to fly in real life. And here, in the real world, these two hangars here are actually the Lane Community College Flight Technology buildings, and parked out front here is the plane I learned to fly in at Lane Community College, a Cessna 152. There she is. So let's hop in the cockpit and get her started. Now, it's been quite a long time since I've flown one of these, and I'm not using any sort of checklists or anything today. So I'm just trying to do all this by memory, quick and dirty. So you'll have to forgive me for the pretty serious mistakes that I'll be making throughout the course of this. Just remember, this is all about just casual flying, hopping in, seeing how things work, and checking out Microsoft Flight Simulator. And there's the first big one. Of course, the engine won't start if the mixture is all the way out. So we'll push that in, give it another go. There it is. So I've been doing a lot of just playing around with the views in this video, kind of seeing how things work. So just once again, bear with me as the views hop around a little bit. I have cut out a lot of the sections where I was just playing with the different windows and options. So here we've skipped to ready to taxi. And what I'm going to do here is just pull out towards the runway, check the windsock to see which runway I want to use, and then I'll cut out the taxiing and rejoin at the end of the runway when we're ready to take off. And Eugene is a towered airfield, so in real life we would definitely be talking to ATC here. But for this, I just wanted to hop in and go for it without worrying about too much extra stuff. Looks like we just have a light crosswind, no obvious runway to use, so I'm going to go ahead and just taxi up to runway 16 right so that we can depart to the south. Our first destination will be Creswell, down to the southeast, and then we'll head north to Corvallis and end our flight there. I'll see you when we're ready to take off. Here we are, the threshold of runway 16 right. I'm just going to go ahead and pull on and get going, and here's where you'll see the very first major drawback to using a Xbox One controller instead of proper rudder pedals, because for whatever reason the triggers on the Xbox One controller, even though being a fully analog axis, cannot be mapped as such in the game and can only be mapped as buttons right now. What that means is that it's very difficult to hold going straight down the runway on takeoff here, because every adjustment I make to the rudder is like pushing a keyboard button all the way. You can see how every time I try and adjust to the right, the nose hops over a lot. This is something I really, really hope they fix soon, as it's quite a hindrance to using the controller and just looks bad. But there we go, we're in the air, not too much trouble, and we're on our way. See here the kind of way I'm sort of moving all over just a little bit is definitely a side effect of using the controller, and I was using the default stick sensitivities here, which are set way too sensitive by default. Once you get those turned down, they performs a little bit better. Now, of course, you'll never be as smooth on the controller as with an actual yoke or a joystick. It's serviceable and works just fine. Just want to hop in and fly casually for a little bit. Now, navigating to Creswell is really easy. You're just going to aim a little bit east of that pointing hill you see just to the right of the cockpit over the right wing. And once we get past that hill, we'll actually just pick up Interstate 5 and follow that south to Creswell. I'll see you again there. We enter the pattern. Enjoy the flight. Alright, I'm back with you. We can see Creswell's hobby field right here off our nose, and we'll be entering into the left downwind for runway 34. Now, this, not checking the winds again, and usually the wind is the same as it was in Eugene at Creswell, so technically I probably should have just done a straight in approach to runway 16, but this is the pattern I remember flying the most when flying in here, and it's actually pretty interesting. There's some tall trees not too far off the threshold of the runway on approach that you have to watch out for, but one of the things I will say is I'm actually pretty amazed at this game. I know one of their stated goals was to make it viable for VFR flight anywhere in the world, just based on visual cues. And so far, based on what I've seen and my flight here, it's perfect. This is exactly what I remember it looking like flying into Creswell from Eugene. I wanted to see if I would even need to pull up the VFR map in the flight simulator, and I didn't. So far so good. I'm quite impressed. And there we are, just about to turn base here. Another thing about landing on runway 34, and then using that as our takeoff runway, we will be pointed north, which is what we're going to head to north to Corvallis as our next destination. We'll turn in on final. Then you will see on landing the nose jump from one side to the other just because of that issue with the rudders. So even though I'm probably going to continue using the Xbox controller for normal flight, just because I'm waiting for, I don't actually own a yoke, because I fly mostly in X-Plane in VR, and I'm waiting for VR on here. But I do have rudder pedals. I might set those up just to get that full analog rudder. Here we go. That is not really what you want to see on landing, but it's all right. I was too busy playing with the rudder. I definitely could have made that taxiway there, but instead we'll just have to pull all the way to the end and taxi back for takeoff up to the north. One of the other things definitely missing when you play with the controller is fine throttle control. And it's also hard to tell what your throttle setting is from inside the cockpit. The external view is really helpful. As you can see on the engine indicator, that little white triangle that's on the outside at 0, that tells you where your throttle is set, which is very helpful with the controller because you don't have any sort of physical feedback on your throttle setting. Aside from, of course, engine RPM, which is useful in flight. Here we are, set up to take off to the north, and we'll head up to Creswell. Sorry, we'll head up to Corvallis. We're at Creswell. once again, just having a real hard time keeping it straight. But we're off. Clear the trees, start to pick up some speed and raise the flaps as we climb out over I-5. And at this point, I did decide, up till now I was using the live time and weather for the flight, but I wanted to make things a little bit more dramatic. So I set the time of day towards evening so we can see some more dramatic lighting and the city lights, and it's just much prettier. So I'll go ahead and leave you here. Some really nice views of our evening flight north of Corvallis. So enjoy the rest of our nice evening flight here, and I'll see you again on our approach into Corvallis. Alright, I'm back, and here we are on final approach here into Corvallis, doing a bit of a night landing here, which is pretty interesting. And just bring it in, and this will conclude our flight for the day. And we're down. So I hope everybody enjoyed this first look at Microsoft Flight Simulator. I will be bringing you more videos to come. I've got a series planned where I think I'm going to try and fly over everywhere that I've ever lived throughout my life, so that hopefully will be interesting. We'll just pull off on a taxiway here and pull to a stop and call it good for today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon.